Hey everybody, welcome to Kid Contractor Podcast. Welcome to the show, folks. We are crazy excited to have an author here of a book you've been hearing me talk a lot about, and it's Winning with Accountability. And first, I want to give credit to Sam Rankin for the referral. So Sam with Etch Outdoor there in Des Moines, Iowa. Great book, and we'll talk more about it. But when I read this thing, folks, I marked this book up like I got notes and scratch. I just went crazy on this book. It really is one of those things where, book referrals can be impactful and not impactful depending on the timing you get the book, right? And this worked out really well as we're growing our small landscape company from 1 million to 2 million this year. And the goal is to get to 10 million by 2032. So this was really, really impactful for me. So without further ado here, I want to read an intro because we're going to pretend like we've got a professional show here. Henry, but if you listen to the other episodes, you might know different. Today on the podcast, we're joined by Henry Evans, author, executive coach, and founder of Dynamic Results. He's best known for his book, Winning with Accountability, and a practical guide that helped companies around the world improve performance through clear communication and ownership. And I will vouch for that. This isn't corporate fluff. It's a simple, powerful framework that's changed how I lead and how our team works together. In this episode, we unpack what accountability really means. And boy, I'll tell you, I'm super excited for wherever we go with this. How to create it, accountability that is, and why it matters more than ever in a fast-moving, high-stake work environment. Henry, thank you so much again, man. You're in California at the moment. You've been traveling. You're on the road. Tell us about yourself, man. Folks may not know who Henry Evans is or this book, so intro yourself as you would see fit.
All right. Well, Caleb, great to be on. I heard you shout the book out on a prior episode, and that's an honor when somebody is trying to build something and I had any impact, even if it's a decimal point in a positive way. That's what I get out of bed in the morning for. I'm here because of a failure. So I was actually on the course to join the FBI. I was also talking to a customer at the time. I was working, and I heard how he kept investing in companies, and I had an idea for a company. And I was, I think, 21, and I knew the FBI would recruit people till 38. And I dropped a business plan on his desk, not thinking anything would come of it. And he said he was interested, so he gave me a little bit of funding. And I started the company and grew it to the top, like 3% of the industry from a pretty obscure place, Albuquerque, New Mexico, and double-digit EBITDA, growing. Everything's going great. I become a millionaire by 30 with no college education, and I was making some big mistakes and didn't realize it until 9/11 happened. So I was ignoring some very good business advice from people with a lot more experience than I had. So long story short, I broke 3 cardinal rules in business. Lost all my net worth. More importantly, I think I lost my identity as a man, because to me, Henry Evans was president of this company. I didn't really know who I was. So I lost all my money, lost my identity, and then I had a couple of mentors, one in government and one in industry, say, when you're no longer a buzzkill, you would actually be a good advisor now. And I'm like, well, how would I be a good advisor? I'm a failure. Like, no, you just reorganized a company through a bankruptcy. So what did you learn more from, that company or the other 4? I'm like, no, this is like an MBA. I mean, if all your vendors hate you, all your customers are worried you can't maintain services, your employees are worried they're going to lose their jobs, you are robbing Peter to pay Paul within the boundaries of the law. But I mean, it's beyond bootstrapping. It's much harder than a startup. And I got over my initial depression. I let some people know I was available for consulting. And one of those mentors also said, when you're not so painful to have lunch with and you're Henry again, we would hire you. So I had a customer in the bag. And that's how it started. So it was not strategic. It was not me thinking someday I'm going to help companies execute strategy. It was me failing and being told I had something valuable to offer when I couldn't see that. And then starting, and they were right and I was wrong.
Man, can you tell me more? And I've done plenty of this in my life. ignoring good advice. How do you try to make sure you don't ignore good advice now, or discern what good advice is even?
That's a great question, Caleb. I hope I'm much better at it now. I mean, first of all, I'm a lot older. So I hope I've learned through experience. So I had a mentor who has left this world, but he was coaching CEOs for like 50 years. His name was Pat Heineman. And one thing he said to me that I remembered, like I knew when he said it, it was one of those learnings that would stick with me for the rest of my life. He didn't use email. He didn't have a cell phone. He was old school. And he said, if one person in your circle calls you an ass, you can ignore them. They're probably wrong. And if two people in your circle call you an ass, you should get curious and maybe investigate it. If three or more people in your circle are calling you an ass, buy a cart. You're an ass. Mm-hmm. So one of it is like strength in numbers, right? If I'm hearing a piece of advice and it's only from one source, I'm not that impressed unless it's something wildly impressive. If two people or two sources are starting to say the same thing, I get curious and I start trying to learn more about it. And if three or more people are telling me something and it goes against my natural instinct, I'm going to give it serious consideration, especially if I respect the sources. Does that help answer your question?
Sure, man. It's I think discernment is something I pray for wisdom in, and trying to make sure that I am, like I said, I have ignored a lot of good advice over the years, and I'm trying to be better about just taking in everything and trying to discern what is the right path. And I imagine anybody that's trying to have to be conscious, maybe struggles with that. So I'm always just trying to be a sponge as far as like what people use as discerning techniques and trying to filter what good information is or bad. And I don't know, when do you know fully, right? Like that's the question there, I guess.
So you don't know about a new book, but I'm working on a new book that's going to parallel my experience. I used to have a top secret clearance, and I spent time in an arena called terrorist detection and deterrence. I only left that work last October. So I have a book now where I'm writing a story about a classified mission that is now declassified for any listeners who know this lingo. Not breaking any rules. And I'm telling basically the story of two organizations managing crisis, one where it's actually life and death, and the other where it feels like life and death, right? Like Caleb, I don't know about you, but have you ever laughed or cried at a movie?
Ever since I've had children, I'm the biggest sap anymore. And yeah, I tear up at freaking anything anymore. It drives me crazy.
Well, I do too. So half our brain knows that thing was written by screenwriters, and we're watching actors, and there's a whole crew in front of them, and we know it's fake.
Yeah.
But we still have a real emotional response to it because our limbic system doesn't know it's fake. So when you're in a crisis, when you're managing a business, if you're trying to go from 1 million to 2 million, and did you say 10 million by 2032?
That's the goal. Yes, sir.
So we're going to circle back to that also in terms of where those financial inflection points are when you're scaling a small business. We actually use the same tools at the organizational level, but also at the self and personal management level to get through crisis in both of those environments, because they both feel like life and death. We respond to them both like life and death. So one of them is a company we supported trying to navigate COVID. Their executives were going through the same emotional spectrum that somebody with a small landscaping company who's losing money is feeling, or this mission work I did, people were feeling. So having practice and tools and the humility to know you need to practice to manage crisis, that this idea that men are supposed to be strong all the time and have all the answers and know how to do everything, we've learned that that's not true. We have to practice what we're not good at. We have to know what we're not good at and work on it. So I think the other thing I try to do in terms of taking advice is, if I'm defending something that has failed me before, so I'm saying, no, I want to try this again, I think that's wrong. I should make new and innovative mistakes. I shouldn't make the same mistakes. So I should try new things, and I should have the courage to try new things. By the way, one of my boys, one of my closest friends, owns a landscaping company in South Carolina. So Dre, shout out.
Heck yeah. If he's got Instagram, we'll have to dig that up and find him here. Because we're big in the Instagram community there. So that's super cool. Dude, landscape green industry touches a lot of people. It's a big industry. So the book, like I said, I literally underlined like a million things. I read this thing so fast. And there's so many things in here I love, Henry. And one of the things we were talking about, I'm not 100% sure the decision we're making is going to be the right one. However, everybody needs to be 100% sure this is the decision we've made and this is the direction we're going to take. We may have to adjust later. And we used that in a meeting a month ago here in the company of like, we're doing some new things as we scale here. And like, for now, this is a decision, right or wrong. We're hoping it's right, but it may be wrong, guys. But this is where we're going so that there's clarity of where we're going, right or wrong. Could you elaborate on that, or any other thoughts on that?
Yeah. So the book is probably about, and thank you for all that praise on the book. I'm going to, I'll get your address offline and I'll send you all 3 books. So you have clean copies and you can give a clean one away. And
I've destroyed this book.
Keep your beat up one. We have a lot we can expand on the book. Yeah, I like how you said you read it quickly. My first publisher, because I wanted a hardcover book that would feel solid. And he's like, Henry, busy business leaders only read the first 80 pages of a business book and then they stop. I publish 100-page books because they're also high achievers. So they'll finish if they get 80 pages in and there's this much left. So they have to be able to read it on a short commuter flight.
Yeah.
So to expand on that idea, in our actual accountability training, we expand a lot. So let's say that you're my leader. You asked me for an opinion, but you did a really good job as a leader. You let me know that my opinion is not a vote. It's not a democratic decision-making process. It's yours to make, but you don't want to do it in a vacuum. You want to get my insight, my point of view. And let's say now I said, we've got to go left here. And you said, everyone, thanks for all your input. We're going to be going right. Even if you gave me advice that we should be going left. That's when we need the team, especially me, as somebody who thought we should go the other direction when asked, to do something we took from Amazon called disagree and commit. So we're all good at executing with high rigor and intensity when it's our idea or an idea that we really like. And I think high performers do that when it's an idea that they don't like, to support one of their colleagues or to support who's got the decision-making authority. So if you were straight up and you front-loaded the accountability and said, Henry, it's not a democratic vote. I have to decide something, but I'm not sure what we should do here. I want your input. I may not go the direction you say, but tell me what you think. I'm not going to resent you when you go the other way because you set those expectations up front. I knew I wasn't getting to vote. And now the question is, can I bring my A game to your decision, even if it's not the one I would have made if I had been in charge of it? So those are 2 expansions, disagree and commit. And commitment means I work as hard and as well on it as I would have my own idea.
And I'll tell you too, when I say read this book quickly, it's an easy read that's really impactful, but also I was reading it just like, I hate to say I couldn't put it down, but I was really going after the book just because I was like, daggone, it was just the right book at the right time for us. And, starting up the season with all the plans of growth, and we're bringing, we've run it 4 people in the field for years, and we're going to 7 people. We have a couple other, like Hunter and Dee, that help us manage our social stuff here. So we got a lot of people in the building now, and it's a lot going on. And I've got to be, one thing I have learned is, leadership is absolutely critical, and my understanding of people is critical. And so that's my role now more than anything, is understanding people and communicating. One of the great things, and another one of the great things, and you're gonna hear me say this all the time, probably ad nauseum, but telling somebody, hey, do a good job on that. What the hell does that? It's just one of those things of like, yeah, gee, it's one of those things you're like, this book also tells you a lot of things you already know, but it frames it in a way you're like, yeah, geez, that's so true. And do a good job on this. We're not setting what the hell's a good job look like? Can you expand on that? Right.
Yeah, sure. So good job is what we call a a term from the GOF, which is Glossary of Failure.
Yeah.
There's a lot of language that if when you hear it in your business or even in your personal life, you can predict future relationship and project failure. And it's ambiguous language, right? So if I'm your employee and I'm going out in the field and I'm doing the actual landscaping, and a customer calls and says, when you send Henry, the work's not that good. But when you send Hector, the work's great. There's two different kinds of conversations you can have with me. One is using a term like that. Henry, I need you to do a good job next time you're out there. Or Henry, you've got to be better. That's like telling me my people skills suck. I don't know what to work on. But if you come to me and say, Henry, they seem really happy with everything except your hedge trimming. And on the hedge trimming, here are some pictures of the kind of standard we want to maintain as a company. I drove by, here's a picture of what you've been doing. You're not far off, but I need your work to look more like this. And do you think you can get it there in 1 or 2 jobs? Can you get to this level? I have seen a picture. You have given me a very specific image to work towards. And then it's a question of can I or can't I do something specific, not can I or can't I do something general and undefined.
Yeah, and that was so, again, impactful to me of, when we tell our guys, hey, we've got to set up and explain what success looks like, right? What does winning look like? And again, I'm just going to sing the praises all day here. And one of the other things that was super impactful to me here was this actually really weighed on me heavy was we need to make sure that we understand what's important as far as like not thinking about what we think people should think about us as opposed to what they actually think of us. So even with my guys, I'll have resentment of, and just to be open here, folks, of like, I'm working my tail off here. I'm here at 5:30 every morning. It's 6 o'clock. I'm gonna be here probably just a little bit, not too bad because we're folks. We do keep a focus on family, but they should know I'm busy. They should know I'm working hard. They know I'm a hard worker. All that. That may not be how they actually think of me, and that does not matter what I think they should think about me. That really was heavy to me. I guess how could you mess my brain up even more from expanding on that maybe?
So I want your listeners to understand who's speaking when I speak. I started by starting small companies. So that's how I learned business. I'm a college dropout. So I've got PhDs who work for me and I get hired by PhDs in large companies, but I myself don't have that kind of credential. I think, can you repeat the question? Because I had 2 answers.
Yeah, well, it was just what I think my guys should think about me versus how they actually think about me.
Yeah, so now I coach a lot of C-suite executives and global companies. In fact, this year, I'm going to cross the 16,000 hour mark of doing that. So these are people who might have 80,000 people reporting to them or 20,000 people, big organizations. And one of the things I say to them is that their self-assessment as a leader is almost irrelevant in a business. And the same applies to a small company. If I'm speaking to Dre, my buddy who's got a landscaping business in Charlotte, and Dre said, hey, my customers think I suck, but my customers are wrong. I'd be like, hold up, let's pause right there. If you care about the sustainability of your business, what you think of your business should match what your customers think of your business. They are judge and jury. And if you don't like that as a concept, just follow the money. If they don't like you, they hire another landscaping service. It's really simple. You don't need to go to business school to understand this, but you got to be listening. Same with your employees about you as a leader. When we talk about language, and I love how much you marked up that book, we think we're clear all the time as leaders.
Yeah.
When a mistake happens in our company, it's usually because they heard something that was different than we intended for them to hear. Now, we can be lazy and blame our employees, or we can say, hey, that's happening to me a lot. I notice, for instance, sometimes a leader will say to me, I'm awesome, but my stupid people don't get it. You know, I tell them how to do things and they just don't get it. Well, if that's 1 out of 5, let's talk about that one person. If it's 4 out of 5, we got a leadership problem. It's not an employee problem.
Yeah.
So I think that customer perception equals our reality. And in that company that ultimately failed after 9/11, we had warehouses and call centers. It was a distribution company. And in the call centers, we had these giant letters on the wall that said customer perception equals our reality. And every cubicle could see those. Because if you were coming to your supervisor and saying, the customer says we didn't ship them something, and I've got the proof right here that they signed for it. Like, your job is to let them know they actually have it and that they're happy. It's not to prove to them that what they're saying is wrong. Your job is to make them feel happy with our company. So I think that would apply to landscaping. It's not just about, do you show up on time and do what you quoted? If there's an interaction on the lawn, did they have a good human experience with your employee? When you said you're packing a lot of people into your building, right? Well, there's a mood you're creating in that building before your people leave it to go out into the field. What's that mood? How does it feel to come back into the hub? And how does it feel to leave it? What are we sending people out feeling? So I think there's what we do. So for you, that's landscaping. And then there's how we make people feel while we're doing it, internally and externally. And that's the same for every business.
Yeah, the commonalities of business, and that's something we're always talking about here, is be it a pizza shop, logistics, warehouses, like, we're all dealing with the same problems. People, payroll, the finance. Business is very universal, right? And I think it's really funny. What are some things at the high levels of business you've seen that are different than, like, again, guy with a pickup truck and a mower, but yet what are things you see at high levels of business that are still relatable to guy with a pickup truck and a mower?
So I think I think most things are a double-edged sword, right? So if you don't mind, I'll point out what I think is good and also what I think is challenging about the same idea. Sure. I think there's a humanity that is lost in large companies, right? So you said 7 people?
Yeah. What do we got actually? With social media company and all that stuff, what do we got? 8 or 9? Yeah, something like that. That's terrible. I should know that, shouldn't I?
That's okay. I don't always know the number of people in our firm, but here's my point. In a small company like yours, mine, and our listeners, because we service these giant global companies, but we're a group of under 20. If something happens to an individual, be it they had a family emergency, they were injured, we let them go, we fired them, or they quit, the impact of that event in our company is really big. When something happens to one of our employees, it's not one of 20,000. It's one of our family members. It's somebody that we know much more intimately. I think that gets lost in large companies. So when they say, hey, we're going to lay off 2,500 people, they've lost that family connection. And they also don't have that experience dealing with all those people. So they don't know them. So I think the challenging side of that equation is that when we do want to let somebody go or somebody good quits on us, it hurts more. It's harder to do. I think on the plus side, it's only that many number of people whose tendencies and preferences you have to learn to make them happy. Right? So if you're trying to make 2,500 people, like one of our clients had 20,000 people across 80 countries. Another one has, 70,000 employees across most of the Eastern US. It's hard to make all of them happy. All those different people who you don't know.
Yeah. So
I think there's a competitive advantage to being small. And if we get into the scaling increments you talked about, 1 to 2, 2 to 10, and there are some in-betweens there, those inflection points make you have to revisit how you're going to engage your people and keep them happy, because you're starting to get a little bigger. You're also starting to get less profitable at these, temporarily less profitable at these inflection points. So those are some things I think about.
Yeah, and and those are all things that my wife technically owns our company, and her and I talk about that of what we thought were problems that $500,000 in revenue or $250,000 or now to 1 million going to 2. It's the problems are similar, but they're different now. It used to be like, how can we afford what machine, or what machine do we buy? That's over. We just get the stuff. That's not a problem. But now it is the people game, and it really is challenging. We're about to extend an offer to another foreman here to join us, and trying to navigate, again, immerse them into our culture, right, and our company culture, and trying to be. There's just so much to learn, man, and like just try to manage all this and keep people happy and keep everyone on the same page. It's tough, but again, the book is one of those things that's really helped us with it, and another chapter. I mean, it might have been a whole chapter. I can't remember, but the specificity end of things, of like, that is something we are done being vague about. I think that was the what you call the vocabulary of failure. But one of those things is like, we don't say end of day anymore. We don't say if you get time. That's done. That's dead. We say, hey, it's not, hey, if you get a chance, change the oil in that truck this week. It's by Friday at noon, that truck oil needs change, hell or high water kind of deal. Or we need you to reach out to that client by 2:00 tomorrow. No more end of day stuff. A good example, my brother, who's a tech guy, he's doing some stuff for me. And he's like, it's like, dude, when you have this my brother, so he's like, I'll have this for you sometime, end of day Friday. And he works through the night. He works all these goofy hours, the tech guy, I'm like, well, dude, that could be 11:59 Friday night, right? I don't, so I need to know what time are we really talking here? Because I got other results waiting on what he does. And so it's just like, it's so again, impactful is the word I keep using, but it's like, dude, we're done with this vagary is the word I use. I don't think it's a real word, but it's like, we're done with the vague. It's out. We have to be specific. Do you have great examples in the book? You do, of course, but like, what can you expand on again on why it's important to be specific?
Well, let's flip the script. Okay, so you're who I call when I want landscaping, but let's say you had a clogged toilet and you needed a plumber.
Yeah.
And you and your wife are hosting a party tonight. So people are coming over, you got an overflowing toilet, not a great day in life. You call the plumber and they go, we're really busy, but we can get somebody out there by the end of the day. Now, you got people showing up to eat food and then use that toilet starting at about 5:30. That's glossary of failure language. And to your point, even if you're all in the same time zone, which most small companies are, all their customers are in the same time zone, that's not going to work for you on that day. So your natural question would be, and maybe you're more relational, you say, hey, we're actually having a party tonight. This is when people are coming over. We need time to clean this bathroom after you're done fixing the toilet. Do you think, how long will it take you? And I say, oh, the toilet in and out about an hour. I've got the parts on the truck. And then you've got to reverse engineer this and say, people come in at 5:30. We need him done by 4:30 so we can clean the bathroom, pat it a little. Could you be here by 3 p.m. Eastern? Now you're having a specific dialogue that predictably will lead to the solution you want. And for our listeners, I know how basic this sounds. I come from a martial arts background. Jabs are basic in fighting. Having a good jab, good lateral movement is basic. But doing that basic thing at the right time and in the right way is not basic. So I think high performance isn't like about what we know. It's about using what we know at the right time and in the right way. So this kind of specific language would help your party come off better.
Yeah, and what's a way too? Because I used to think I was specific, and that was just part of my my black and white nature and maybe borderline spectrum behavior. Like just being me, very specific on things. And then I realized, yeah, I'm actually still not as specific as I need to be. How might you advise people being specific without sounding condescending or like you're talking down to someone, like a 2-year-old kind of deal?
You're asking a great question. So in that book, we're giving you the 4 elements of an accountable interaction. And yes, there's a lot more to the method we use. And by the way, Caleb, I don't remember what I said in each book. So sometimes people compliment me on an idea.
Book, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. Like I know yours are coming out of this one, but maybe I don't know.
Yeah.
In one of the books and in our training, we talk about a technique called reflection. So if I were, I'm gonna just go ahead and say bad leader, because this would really be like the worst. If I come to you and I'm a micromanaging leader and I tell you exactly what I want, when I want it, don't ask you any questions, don't invite your innovation or your creative thinking or your expertise. I just download what I want. And then I say something even worse, like, now repeat what I just said. That is such an insult to that person's intelligence. And it also may not even get you what you want, because they're not thinking about the outcome. They're thinking about not failing in that moment with you, because you're being intimidating. You're using your authority. You don't want them to repeat your words. Reflection is saying something like, hey, Caleb, I just used a lot of words. What did you hear? And then in your own words, you tell me the essence of what you think we're agreeing to. Or I say something like, Caleb, we just said a whole lot. What are our next steps? And I'm engaging you as an eye-level partner in the interaction, but I also want to hear what you understood in your words to see if that matches the outcome that I'm after. And I would suggest even in a small landscaping company, let's say it's the other way. It's one of your landscapers who needs a new part, and that's going to cost money. Both of you are responsible for making sure the interaction was accountable. It's not just boss to employee. So if you said to me as your employee, Henry, I need you to do a better job cleaning up the warehouse, I might say, Caleb, sure, I'm all in. Can you tell me a little bit about what looks off to you in the warehouse? And also, can you give me a little bit more about what does the warehouse looking better look like for Caleb? Because maybe we have different ideas about what better looks like. So we're getting that visual expectation established. And I might be asking you for reflection as my boss. So we kind of try to take the hierarchy out. A high-performing company, small or big, has clarity when they're interacting, and people are not getting surprised as often. And then what we hope is our competitors are using the glossary of failure with each other and their customers. Dre owns a company called Carolina Greenscapes. And when he and I are hanging out and he shares a challenge he's having with a customer or an employee, I'm like, well, let's try to dial down those instances in Carolina Greenscapes, and let's hope your competitors are having more of those problems. It's not that we wish anyone ill will,
right?
But there are only so many customers within an area, and if you're trying to go from 1 to 2 and then 2 to 10 by 2032, you're looking to take customers from other people in the end. Is that fair?
I would say so. Yeah. I mean, we're looking. I mean, market share will be especially in our small rural market. Yeah, it'll be. It will be, and our goal is to earn that, right? Is with better language and better communication than others, and that's how. That's one of our value propositions there, right? So yeah, that would be our goal. It's not stealing. It's we hope folks gravitate to a better company is our goal.
Absolutely. No, I don't think it's stealing at all. It's the nature. It's earning. We compete against giant firms. I mean, our little group of 20, we are David. We're competing against the world's most famous consulting companies all the time. They have 80,000 people or they have 50,000 people. They're in 70 countries. We have to be able to do a few things better than they do, and then be able to communicate that we're better at those things, or better yet, have our customers say we're better at those things than the big firms can, because we can't outspend them. We can't outinvest them. They could buy us whenever they wanted to if we were interested in selling. We're not. So yeah, I think we have to earn that. So some of that is how good do the hedges look, and some of that is how nice are the people when I dial in, how nice are the people I talk to when they're on my lawn.
Yeah, it can be just little things here. Pause with me real quick here. I want to save this file. I had a catastrophe last week of a file that didn't save, and I would cry if I lost this. So.
Oh, sure.
So we're back. Okay, there we go. Henry, tell me about Dynamic Results. Like, what's the smallest size company you help? Probably not us at $1 million. You're helping big companies.
Yeah, the only way, so we obviously started working with small companies in Dallas. And then as we got more and more of those smaller companies, we got better at earning larger ones. So we started to go to like mid-cap companies, like small manufacturers. And then I started to get invited, excuse me, after the book to give keynotes. So then large companies had executives at those keynotes, and they would then invite me to come talk to their executive team, maybe for like an executive briefing. But we're actually a strategy execution company. So if you wanted to go from 1 to 2 and then 2 to 10, we help you figure out a 2-year strategy. And then we stay with your team for 8 90-day sprints using a proprietary methodology to execute strategy. So we're helping you achieve the strategy. So most consultants will kind of help you write the strategy, take a paycheck, and leave. We stay with you for 2 years, and we become part of your team to execute. The only way I still touch small companies is usually through associations, or maybe like a group of small companies will pool their money and say, can you come do a 1-day training with us and train accountability with our teams? So I was in Ohio doing that with a team of 24 people last week. And I might be working with the top 65 leaders of a 16,000 person organization the next day. Did I answer your question?
Yeah, man. And it's amazing. Was this always the intent, or did this happen by accident?
No, a lot of my life has been an accident. I mean, take like I didn't plan to. I wanted to make a growing, profitable company, but I didn't think we could get to the top of the industry that fast from Albuquerque, New Mexico. I also didn't think I could lose that company in a heartbeat when something like 9/11 happened. So those are 2 accidents right there. When I decided not to go into the FBI, I had no idea I would, after the failure, a friend who worked in that business of detecting and deterring terrorists thought I could add value and would invite me to start doing that kind of work. So it was crazy. Like I decided not to work with the FBI, and then 10 years later, emerging from a failure, I get invited into not what the FBI does specifically, but a type of service that impacts civilians in a positive way, domestically and internationally. Never thought I'd be living in California. Never thought I would be doing strategy. I was a chronic stutterer as a kid, so I never thought I would be giving keynotes or out in public talking about leadership. So now I don't mean that nothing is strategic. Dynamic Results our firm has a suite of products and services that I've created and honed and improved over 23 years with a lot of smart people helping. And what I like about our business is that most of the good ideas we have wind up coming from our clients, right? So we give them a concept or a tool, but they go apply it in a company. And then they come back and tell us what works and what doesn't. And then we can start to, over time, say, okay, this idea works great in landscaping companies, but it doesn't work really well for restaurants, as an example. So we stopped giving that one to restaurants. And we find that most of the best practices for growing a company and making it profitable are industry agnostic. Like it doesn't matter what industry you're in. So excellence in process, excellence in employee satisfaction, excellence in client satisfaction. When you talk about bringing on this foreman, you're at this inflection point, and I hope any small business leader hearing this who also wants to grow is tuning their attention in right now. When you're starting a landscaping company, it relies almost entirely on your expertise. You're driving one truck. It's just you. You're doing all the work. So the company's benefiting from your expertise, and all you have to do is really do a good job yourself. What happens when you get to a certain inflection point is you start to need to become expert at making other people that good, and no longer expert at being that good yourself at that thing. So you have to go from being an implementer to kind of a coach and a trainer. And those skills are not developed when you're working alone. So in a lot of entrepreneurial endeavors, you've built up a set of skills that are actually perishable. They're going to expire for you when you start hiring. And if you get to the point that you are now, Caleb, where you're putting in a foreman, well, now you're putting a layer between you and the people who are going out to do the work. So you have to be masterful at training that foreman to keep your values alive with those people, to keep that same commitment to quality that helped you be successful with those other people. You get up to your, because I think between 1 and 2, you don't have to do a lot of hiring. 2 and 5, to get to 5, you're going to have to be willing to be less profitable. Probably be between like 3.5 or 4 and 5. You're going to have to start to hire ahead of that final sprint to growth. So your margins get lower, your costs get higher. You're still profitable if you're doing it well. And then you have a period of time at 5 where you can get more profitable. But as you want to get up to 7, you're going to do that again. You're going to have to then hire some more ahead of the sales, so you have the capacity to deliver on the sales. And then you have to do that again at 10. So if you looked at margin, some companies like staying at 2 because there's less complexity, fewer people to manage, and it's more profitable. The challenge is if you're not growing to some degree, you're at risk of declining rapidly, as my company did when I failed. And sorry, I should say when my company failed, because I actually developed. I thought I was a failure at that time, but my mentor said, "You're not a failure. You're emerging from a business failure with some learnings." Yeah. And other companies need those. So I think we get that in our business, right? We learn what works, we learn what doesn't. So make new and innovative mistakes. Don't make the same ones.
I had a company, started just a mowing business when I was 16 back in 99, and crashed that company in 08. And I wish I could blame it on the economy. I was just a horrible business person. Did good work, but I was a horrible business person. And I shudder to think if I hadn't have crashed and burned then, and we would have limped along in some sort of mediocrity of like where I would be today, still limping along in mediocrity. And not that we've arrived by any stretch or that we're figured anything out for that matter. It's the fit for me. And unfortunately, I'm a guy that's got to learn the hard way of everything. I feel like, although I'd like to think in the last 5 years, I've rounded a corner of learning, trying to be the wise man that learns from the fool's mistake. But for the longest time, I was the fool learning from my own mistakes. Right. And I shudder to think of where I still might be, or actually, and worse, not where it might be, but worse, where my thinking pattern might be had I not crashed, forced me to reinvent myself to an extent, if not entirely. And so, out of the ashes, a lot of times, man, the better things come out of it, right? Forest regenerates, whatever. And so I'm with you there, and I appreciate you sharing the 9/11 thing, because I know a lot of people have had big crashes and burns and learned a lot from it, or had hard lessons, and of course a lot of famous cliche people too. Like, I hate to say I don't mean to say cliche, but like it's a thing. There's a pattern to that, right? Like people learn. Unfortunately, sometimes it takes crashing and burning to actually come out the other side more polished.
Yes, sir. And like you, I had all these advisors around me saying, you had a double-digit EBITDA, growing, profitable company. It's not your fault. It's 9/11's fault. That's just bullshit. If you do the math, there are 3 rules I broke that had my company highly leveraged. And when I did the math, it hurt me in the heart because I could see that if 9/11 had happened at any other time in our 10 years, the company was strong enough to survive that event. But because I made these bad decisions and went against 3 rules of business that I was given, the company was vulnerable. And that's when 9/11 happened. It was not because of 9/11. It was because of me making bad decisions. And also at that age, thinking I was better than the advice I was being given by much more experienced, seasoned, knowledgeable business people. So there was an arrogance about it that led to my company crashing. And I hope I don't have any of that left in my body today.
And so maybe hold my hand here for just a minute before we unfortunately have to part ways here relatively soon. And as we grow, we buy as much stuff cash as we can. We are leveraged on some vehicles and equipment and stuff like that. What have you learned as far as advising goes to not, as Dave Ramsey says, everybody sees that you see who's skinny dipping when the tide goes out, right? And I
Yep.
don't want to be skinny. I don't think we're skinny dipping, but at the same time, my shorts are short. You know what I mean? But we have cash. We're in pretty good shape. We have cash reserves. We could weather, and God help me not have to do this. But like we've got good cash reserves. But tell me your thoughts on like how to weather a storm. What the best to make sure you're not skinny dipping and you don't even know you're skinny dipping.
Don't do what I did. So you actually just mentioned one of them. So we had healthy cash reserves for 10 years. In the year 2000, we were building a software product, which today looks kind of like Amazon. But I decided that we were going to finish it on time. Software development never happens on time. We were going to do it on budget or near budget, and that it would be really good. We had these cash reserves for a long time. Interest rates were a little high. We had never used our reserves. So the first big mistake I made against the advice I was given was not using other people's money. I thought, if I take my cash reserves and I use that to finish the software build, we're going to replenish that cash with the increased efficiency within 6 months. So I'd only be at risk for 6 months. What's the big deal? Huge mistake, number one. Mistake number two is that I stopped marketing. I took like our marketing and sales people. I said, hey, I need you to work on this software build because I'm getting interviewed by this business magazine. I don't want to be another company that underestimated cost and schedule. So I want us on time, on budget. So we did not have new business coming in. The third rule I broke, that's the only one where I was actually trying not to break it every year, but I was failing every year. And I don't think it's as big for most landscaping companies. We had one client that represented way too much of our business. In some years, 70 to 80% of our revenue. Now, this I tried to slay that dragon every year, but every year the client said, do you want more of our business next year or none of it?
Yeah. Oh man.
So every year, right, we're addicted to the profit and the success. So I'm buying additional warehouses and call centers to service mostly one company. 9/11 happens, they go down. We have no new business coming in. We have no cash, and we start losing money right away. So the question when I'm giving a keynote is, was it really 9/11's fault or was it my fault? It was my fault. Make sure your business has cash reserves. If you have the cash, and this is hard to say right now with interest rates where they are, but use other people's money where and when you can, and fight like a tiger not to have too high of a client concentration. In your industry, I would say 5% would be really high. But if you're doing commercial landscaping, all right, maybe you landed Home Depot or Lowe's, and half your business is servicing them. That might be profitable, but know you could crash on any day.
Yeah.
If they leave you.
Yeah. What we'll round out here in the last 10 minutes because I know you've got jet setting to do and all this. And first, too, where would you prefer people buy your books? Amazon, or do you have a direct website? What benefits you best right now?
Oh, that's nice of you to ask. So Amazon, yeah, there are links on our website, dynamicresults.com, so the book is easy to find. We have another book on accountability. We have another book on leadership, which is about how to get leadership in your organization from everyone who's not the leader. So what are the 6 moments when leadership is required and what do leaders do in those moments? That one, so like I said, I'm not a PhD, but I wrote that one with one. And he did 5 years of research on high-performing organizations and people. So we took, well, what makes those people so powerful? What makes them so good? There are specific behaviors. One of them is they're really good at attacking ideas or behaviors, not people. So instead of me going to you as my employee and saying, Caleb, you suck, I'm saying, Caleb, you do a lot of things well, but I don't want to talk about that right now. I want to talk about this thing you've got to improve and change because it's holding us back.
Well, and that's huge. And that communication skill set of, and I'm going to be buying and reading your other couple books here and your next book. Then that's where I'm putting a tremendous amount of my effort right now is just understanding better than ever better than ever. So I that would even infer that I even knew what I was doing to start with, and I didn't. But just understanding how to work with everyone, and that's just it, man. Tell me about like daily routine. Are you one of these guys that's does like the cold plunges and you work out at 4 a.m. and all this kind of stuff? What's lifestyle like for you? Are you big into any of that stuff?
I'm 57 now, so I don't do any full contact sparring anymore. I still train some people. So I've got kettlebells, mace bells, a TRX, a heavy bag, and a pull-up bar. So I'm using mostly functional training. So I train my body to, say, throw a person or have a strong kick or punch or have a very fast evasive maneuver. So everything I train is to actually do something should I have to do it. I do not train less than 4 times a week, and I do not train more than 5 times a week, so my body gets rest. And it also, as a business leader, it gives me the flexibility. I don't have to feel guilty if I skip Monday's workout. It doesn't matter which 2 days I skip, as long as I don't skip more than 2. More than 3. You can see I'm not a PhD in mathematics. And I mostly skip breakfast. And then I do like a vegan smoothie for lunch. And then I dig on a lot of animal protein. I mean, I have 2 smokers. I have 3 grills. 2 of them are smokers. I cook a lot of meat. So I do the opposite of most people. I don't do the breakfast like a king, lunch like a prince, dinner like a pauper. I do no breakfast, lunch like a pauper, and dinner like a king. I go big on it. But that's my body. You have to do what works for yours.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And I'm just always interested in this. What time do you get up in the morning? What's your habit there? I'm curious.
Well, this is a funny week to ask me. Last week I was on
average, let's say
5 flights in 6 days. I will generally get up so I can start my day in Europe on European time. I'll get up around 5:30. I like to get a little bit of a slow start, but I'm usually in my first meeting and they're all on camera. That's when I'm not on site with clients. Yeah. When I'm working from home, I'm usually on camera by 7 a.m., latest 8 a.m. And I try to quit by 3 or 4 p.m. And I'm not as successful as I would like to be at that, but I'm almost always done by 4 or 5.
Yeah. And maybe last question, what's like an impactful learning moment for you of late? Let's say something that was maybe an epiphany of late.
It's I think a confirmation of an earlier learning. So it's a deepening of understanding. When I'm advising a smart, talented leader, I have no control over what they actually do. So even like our listeners today and your listeners in past and future podcasts, the best job you can do, Caleb, is give them an idea that they may or may not use. Right? So you want to, I think when I'm working at my highest level, I'm excellent at influence. In other words, I can influence them to first be interested in a concept. So you were interested in the book. I can't make you be interested in the book. I can't make you read it. And I definitely can't make you talk about it on a podcast or implement it in your business. You controlled whether those things happened. What I tried to do is write the book in a way that when you started reading it, you wanted to keep going. I tried to make the concepts really simple intellectually so that you're not burning your calories trying to understand them. And I'm not trying to prove I'm smart. I'm trying to make you smarter. So I think that when we're leading people, even in a small company, our job is to make the complex simple as leaders, make the expectations communicated in a very simple way. And that's not easy. If there's a big, complex commercial landscaping job, how do you turn that into a simple story that your whole team can follow? How do you simplify it? Because the more complexity there is, the more miscommunication there is, and the worse the results are, in my experience.
Man, I think you just named the episode. Make the complex simple. I love that. That was all. And that happens so many podcasts, like all just right in the last like 10 minutes, there's some Pareto distribution to this or something. I don't know, of like just somehow always somebody drops a one-liner at the end. It's like, oh, that's it. That's the show title. It's perfect. So man, that's great. Henry, thank you so much for your time, man. I know you got to get packing here, and I am so grateful for it. Thank you for writing the book. It was, again, super impactful to me. I can't wait to read the next 2 or 3 you got going on. And again, on social media or anywhere can folks find you if they want to see what you're up to, if you do all that stuff?
Probably the best place would be LinkedIn.
Yeah, cool.
My IG is more personal, like here's how I see the world. I don't have selfies on there. It's just what I see while I'm traveling.
Yeah, cool.
And LinkedIn would probably be the best place. Quick thing for your listeners. We don't sell anything on LinkedIn, so we will never try to sell you something, not even a book. Mostly what I post are 60-second or less best practices for business people.
Sweet.
And most of those are coming from our smart clients. So I'm the stuttering bald guy saying it, but I probably learned it from a client.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. Well, thank you so much for your time. It means the world to me that you saw opportunity or value or something, or were willing to share. I guess that's the most wonderful thing. So, Henry, thank you so much for your time today. I will let you go. I'm going to do an outro here. I don't want to keep it, but you're welcome to stay on the course. Thank you again for your time today, sir.
I'm just thanking you, Caleb, because you paid me a lot of compliments, and I appreciate that you opened up about us being able to add any value for you. And also thank you for the invite.
Yeah, man. My pleasure. Absolutely. Henry Evans there, folks. A book. We'll put some links maybe through Amazon here in the show notes and the website here for a couple of ventures he's got going there, and go from there. Folks from the Company Cam Studios here in beautiful Fairfield County, Ohio. Man, you got to make the complex simple. That's really just all it comes down to, I suppose. We'll catch you on the next one, folks. We'll see you.